Thanks for joining us. Again, I'm Josh Barnes, and we're continuing with our week of Point of View today. And you can see I'm still dressed if you're watching on the stream and not on K-Star Conservative Radio Network, which is going to air everything that we do throughout the week on Saturdays. Thank you so much for K-Star. And for those listening there on the radio, for those on FISM TV, Right America Media Television, and also on YouTube, you can see that I'm still wearing my white and red, white, and blue for Memorial Day, honoring those. I just don't have a problem with honoring them a second day for all that they did, giving their lives. They deserve at least honor, if not just one day, then much more than that. And but all we can do is honor them, and that's what we can do. That's what we should do. Today, we're moving the subject to transgenderism. Did you see that 60 Minutes last week actually ran a special on transgenderism, and it was actually pretty liberal. It was not conservative at all, but they got a lot of heat because they actually presented the negative downside to this whole transgender push and everything. And there's actually a big debate now among these feminists, gay rights activists, and transgender activists. It's kind of crazy. Let me read a little excerpt from a story. This you can find on the Christian Post. The title of the story is 60 Minutes Slammed for Airing Detransitioners Who Regret Transgender Medicalization. I'm going to read just a little piece. This is pretty far down, but it's a quote from Dr. Johanna Olson Kennedy. And she's one of the most infamous pediatric gender doctors globally. And she voiced her dismay with the 60 Minutes special, which we will play a clip from, and I'll dissect it. We'll dive into it momentarily. But she voiced her dismay with this clip because in the clip, what they do is they actually show the downside. They show people who transition to another gender and then detransition. They regretted it. It was wrong. They shouldn't have done it. They decided to change back. And 60 Minutes giving the transgender side or giving the other side of those who detransition, which used to be what journalism do. They should also give the other side of Christians who say you should never transition at all. But at least they did. They tried to be somewhat fair. And Dr. Joanna Olson Kennedy is part of the International Transgender Health Facebook page. And she wrote this: so many of us worked hard to dissuade CBS from airing the segment on detransitioners and referred to the network's decision to run it anyway as a shameful ploy for ratings. Olson Kennedy, who heads up a youth transgender clinic at Children's Hospital, Los Angeles, she's from California, that kind of explains it, is a gender doctor among the recipient of a $5.7 million National Institutes of Health research grant. In one of her publications, it shows that mastectomies have been done on girls as young as 13. In a video clip that continues to be circulated online, Olson Kennedy is seen on tape insisting adolescents have the capacity to make life-altering decisions, including having their breasts removed. Adolescents should be making these decisions, she says. Now, that being said, there's also the other side, which is not the conservative side, not the Christian side, but this from the radical feminist Kara Dansky. She says, it is outstanding that 60 Minutes chose to air the voices of those young women and one young man whose bodies have been irreparably damaged by this vicious industry. She said in an email to the Christian Post, she serves on the steering committee of the U.S. chapter of the Women's Human Rights Campaign. And she said most mainstream media outlets refuse to cover this issue fairly, but once the general public is able to hear from more feminists, gay rights activists, and those harmed by the industry, speaking of the industry of the transgenderism, the gender identity industry will wither on the vine. So we have gay rights activists, we have radical feminists who want the gender identity industry to wither on the vine. Why? Because the gender identity industry undermines the feminism industry and the gay rights industry. Because if you can just be a different gender because you want to be, then what's the point? What value is there in being a woman? A man can be a woman. If the woman doesn't want to be a woman, she can be a man. So what value is there in being a woman? There is none. There's nothing special about being a woman. Even men can be women. And also for the gay rights, I mean, if you can just be a woman, now it's, what's the big deal that it's a man and a woman and a woman, because you just be whatever you want to be. A heterosexual couple can now be gay because one of them just decides that they're, it's all confusion that makes no sense. And but this is the problem. This has all gotten to this place because of the precedents that were set by the homosexual agenda. The homosexual agenda said, what is normal, what is biological, what is biblical, all those things don't matter. All that matters is whatever we want. And the transgender industry has just taken the next step on that. So as we'll normally do on Point of View, we're going to not only are we going to watch the video, or at least a segment of the video from 60 minutes, and then we're going to break it down and talk about the biblical view, because if we're going to be right about issues, we have to be biblical. We know Jesus died on the cross, he rose from the dead, which proves that the Bible is true. If the Bible is true, it's the foundation for being right about issues. We got to be biblical. Okay? So we're going to break this down biblically. We're going to talk about it. What I'm about to play for you is going to be the 60 minutes interview, but not all of it. Not an interview. There's some interviews in there, but it's not the whole special. We certainly don't have time to break down the whole special, but I want you to know the part that I'm going to play is the part that everyone's angry about. It's the part that you're going to agree with more than the other. The rest of the whole thing is all pro-transgenderism and actually very, very liberal, and you wouldn't agree with at all if you're conservative. Or Christians really shouldn't agree with that. This segment is actually just a little snippet stuck in there where they're showing a few dangers of transgenderism, but they are not anti-transgender in this segment at all. But I want you to show that even when they're trying to be fair, even though they still have a left lean, they're still pointing out that there are some dangers. Now, the danger is actually much worse, but here's what they show. We'll run this and we'll pause it as needed to comment.
Yes, I just had this sense that if I could inhabit life as a man, then
While the vast majority of transgender youth and adults are satisfied with their transitions, not all are. In some cases, patients are choosing to reverse the process. It's called detransitioning. In her early 20s, Grace Ladinsky Smith was seriously depressed and developed gender dysphoria. She began searching for answers in transgender communities on the internet.
And when I saw them being so happy and excited about doing this wonderful transformative process to really become their true selves, it was like, have I considered that this could be my situation too?
Did this have any part of it? A sense that men had it easier in life than women did, and that your road might be easier if you were male?
Yes.
Oh. So what you're saying is this whole glorification of men, as if women in order to be anything special, have to be like men. You're saying that this actually drove this woman to want to transition to be a male, just because she thought the grass was greener on the other side of the fence. Isn't this just like human beings? We always think the grass is greener. We always think, oh, I'm missing something. I guess maybe if I transition to another gender, that will just solve my problems. It will fill that empty hole in me. But the problem is, you're not going to fill that empty hole. You know, Jesus has actually made you with an empty spot in you. You need him. You need Jesus Christ. And you're not going to find fulfillment in anything else. In him, Colossians says, all fullness dwells. You really want to be fulfilled, what you're missing is Jesus. And people think, well, you know what? Here's my solution. If I drink enough, maybe I can drown out my sorrows. If I do drugs, if I do this, if I try having sexual relations with a different type of a partner, if I transition to another gender, maybe then I'll be happy. The grass is always greener, and it's sad, but this is the reality. This is happening, and applause to 60 Minutes for actually airing this, even though the majority of this special was actually very pro-trans. Let's continue on.
I just had this sense that if I could inhabit life as like a trans man, as a man, then I wouldn't feel so self-conscious. I was thinking that it would make me feel very free.
Grace says she found a gender therapist on the internet and told her, "I'm thinking of transitioning."
She thought it all sounded pretty good.
Did the therapist not question you about how deep the feeling was and what it was stemming from?
She didn't really go into what my gender dysphoria might have been stemming from. We only did a few sessions.
Because she was over 18 and didn't need parental consent, she says she merely signed an informed consent form at a clinic and got hormone shots.
Now, this is, by the way, this is why this is so important, that this is not allowed for those under 18. This has to be something that you are well aware, you are an adult, you can make a decision on, because it's so easy for young people to just think, my life's not what I want it to be. I like, you know, the life that this person has, and they're another gender. Maybe if I become that gender, my life will be better. You know? And this is a very dangerous thing to do. It actually very much damages a person. And you'll see in a moment, even to the point of thoughts of suicide and all sorts of messed up things, all because they were allowed to transition to be another gender without actually any counsel, any advice, nobody trying to say, hey, maybe this isn't a good idea.
Asked me, so why do you want to go on testosterone? And I said, well, being a woman just isn't working for me anymore. And they said, okay.
So that was that. You got your prescription for testosterone.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Just 4.
Why do you want to go on testosterone? Well, being a woman isn't working for me anymore. What happened to common sense? What happened to helping people who need help? Instead of saying, yeah, transition to being a man because being a woman isn't working. What?
4 months after she started testosterone, she says she was approved for a mastectomy, what's called top surgery, that she told us was traumatic. You know, I'm kind of surprised because based on everything you've said up to now, I would have thought you'd have a great sense of relief.
I started to have a really disturbing sense that like a part of my body was missing, almost a ghost limb feeling about being like, there's something that should be there. And the feeling really surprised me, but it was really hard to deny.
Because a part of your body was missing.
And so she detransitioned by going off testosterone and then went back to the clinic. And she says complained to the doctor that the process didn't follow the WPATH guidelines.
I can't believe that I transitioned and detransitioned, including hormones and surgery, in the course of like less than 1 year. It's completely crazy.
It greatly concerns me where the field has been going. I feel like what is happening is unethical and irresponsible.
It is unethical.
In some places.
Laura Edwards-Leeper was the first psychologist at the first major youth gender clinic in the U.S. at Boston Children's Hospital. She says she has helped hundreds of teens and young adults transition successfully after a comprehensive assessment. Do you have conversations with your colleagues about this whole area of accepting what young people are saying too readily?
Yes, everyone is very scared to speak up because we're afraid of not being seen as being affirming or being supportive of these young people.
And this is exactly what they want, by the way. They want to scare you into saying nothing and to affirm, because the chief goal in society today is being nice, and being kind and being nice is not doing what's best for that person. Being kind and being nice now is not doing what's best for them. It is instead doing what they want, making them happy. Making someone happy is not the chief good of mankind. That's not what makes you a good person, because you make other people happy. Now, making people happy can be a wonderful thing, but that's not the goal of humanity. If you're actually nice, if you're actually loving, you're going to help that person with what they need, even if it doesn't make them happy. You see someone who's about to jump off a cliff, and you say, "Hey, don't do that. Don't tell me what to do. I can fly." I know you think you can fly, but you can't. That's actually false, and I care about you enough to tell you, don't jump off the cliff. And here's the thing. That's exactly what we're dealing with in our society today. People telling transgender, gender dysphoria, people with this disease, are telling them, well, go ahead and jump off the cliff. Go ahead. Go ahead. Because you think you can fly, who am I to tell you you can't? You're hurting people. You need to tell them the truth. The truth matters.
Or doing something to hurt the trans community. But even some of the providers are trans themselves and share these concerns.
There's no confirmed number of detransitioners in the U.S., though their percentage among the more than 1.4 million transgender Americans is assumed to be small. They are becoming more public, though. We found a Reddit detransition support group with over 19,000 members worldwide, some saying they changed their minds because of family pressure or discrimination in employment and other areas, or simply regret. We also interviewed more than 30 detransitioners who say they also had experienced regret, including these 4 who hadn't met before now. How many of you feel that you were blindly affirmed?
I didn't get it.
We have an affirming problem in this country where doesn't matter what is true. All that matters is that you affirm what someone else thinks is true. This is dangerous. If we love people, we can't affirm dangerous, hurtful behavior.
Enough pushback on transitioning. I went for 2 appointments, and after the second one, I had like my letter to go get on cross-sex hormones.
He said, I haven't had enough, I didn't get enough pushback on transitioning. I said I was going to transition to be a different sex, different gender, and nobody pushed back on it. After 2 appointments, he was on hormones.
2 visits? That's it? All 4 tell us they learned about transitioning on the internet, where there are transformation videos on YouTube, trans influencers, and forums.
I've just never been able to be me, but I can now.
For Daisy in Chicago, who says she started taking hormones at 18, everything was great in the beginning.
After every step that you take, every milestone feels like $1 million. When I got top surgery, I was elated. When I changed my name, I was elated. But when everything that I had set out to do was done, I still felt incomplete.
If this doesn't break your heart, it should break our hearts. It should break our hearts These people are looking for something. They're missing something. What they're missing is Jesus Christ himself. They need the fullness that Christ brings to their life, and they're missing it. And they're looking for something, and they're thinking that just changing to another gender is the answer. And this is, someone needs to reach these people and tell them that what they need is Jesus.
Garrett from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, went from taking hormones to getting his testicles removed, he says, in just 3 months, whereas the current guidelines call for continuous use for a year. He later got a breast augmentation, but instead of feeling more himself, he says he felt worse. So more depressed after you transitioned than before.
I had never really been suicidal before until I had my breast augmentation, and about a week afterwards, I wanted to actually kill myself. I had a plan and I was gonna do it, but I just kept thinking about my family to stop myself. It kind of felt like, how am I ever gonna feel normal again like other guys now?
I don't know what to say. I'm heartbroken. These are real people. Some people ask me why I get so upset on the show or why I get frustrated about these things, because these are real people. When we're on this show and we're talking about how wrong transgenderism is, it's because it's hurting real people. Thank God this child did not, this young man did not commit suicide. But what are we doing? What are we doing as a society? Affirming falsehoods. Oh, you're a woman, but you think you're a man, so fine, I'm going to affirm it even though it's completely insane. You're hurting people. Let me read you a few scriptures about this. Maybe this will help. Matthew 22. Jesus said, verse 37, Jesus said unto him, when he was asked, what's the greatest commandment? Jesus said, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. What do you think is the loving thing to do when your neighbor tells you, I'm a man, but I want to be a woman? What do you think? The loving thing to do is not, great, go ahead, indulge your insane, non-truthful fantasy and hurt yourself, harm yourself. No, the loving thing to do is, I know you feel this way. I know you feel this way, but it's not true. You are a man. And I know you may feel like a woman, or you are a woman. I know you may feel like a man, but you're not. And it is not good for you to do this against reality and facts, and it actually will hurt you in the long run. God made you a certain way for a certain reason. And it doesn't even matter if it's your neighbor, right? Jesus said this, I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. Our job as Christians is to love these people. And this is why we say, don't do it. Transgenderism is a falsehood. It's based on nothing but lies and is going to hurt you if you get involved in it. It's hurtful. It's harmful. John 8, Jesus said, if you continue in my word, then you are my disciples indeed, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Who's the truth that we are to know? John 14. Jesus said unto them, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Jesus says that he himself is truth. Like Everything about Jesus is true. He is the truth. And as Christians, truth is the center of our faith. Because Jesus is the truth and he's the center of our faith. Everything about Jesus is just truth. He doesn't want any lies associated with him. When we're talking about an issue like transgenderism, this is not only harmful to people, psychologically harmful, physically harmful when they're doing these transitions. It can cause all sorts of complications, all sorts of negative things, cancers and other things. On top of the psychological damage that can also lead to physical damage if they try something like suicide. These are very serious things that very seriously hurt people. And if they just knew the truth, that they are inherently one gender and cannot transition just because they feel like it. They can't just act like another gender and that makes them another gender. Gender might be in your head, but changing gender doesn't change your sex. And this is what the transgender community does. It says, well, sex is over here and gender is over here. Gender is a social construct. I can be a biological male and decide that I'm a female. But then you've got to treat me like I'm a female, even though I'm still a biological male. And now they put the two back together. No, listen. You are what you are. And that's a wonderful thing. And people need to learn to not live in a fantasy world and to love and appreciate who they are, because it's who they are that makes them special. And they think who they are is the opposite of who they are. And that's not helpful. It's hurtful. It's damaging. And God help us if we affirm that kind of behavior because it hurts people. Don't affirm this. If you love people the way God wants you to love people, you will not affirm this type of activity, type of behavior. Before we go, got to remind you, guys, you can get some White Mountain Munchies on whitemountainmunchies.com. Amazing snack food, non-GMO, gluten-free, great, amazing flavor, also good for you. Use the promo code RAM at checkout. You'll support shows like Point of View on the Right America Media Network and also get a great discount on the product. You can also use the same code, RAM, at checkout on MyPillow website. Get the MyPillow sheets. I'm loving those sheets. They are amazing. Never had sheets like that before. They're just amazing. You can get the MyPillow pillow, which is revolutionized my sleep. Slippers, bathrobe, all kinds of stuff. Get an amazing discount on it and promote shows like Point of View on the Right America Media Network by using the promo code RAM at checkout. Thank you guys for that. We want you to know and believe the gospel. We want you to be right about issues. To do that, you're going to have to be biblical about them. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next time on Point of View.